On May 27, 2011, 6:55 p.m., a young nursing student named Michelle Lu walks across a footbridge, moving from her training hospital toward the parking lot. For reasons unknown, she stepped away from her duties without permission. Michelle approaches her white Honda CR-V. At 7:17 p.m., her Honda is seen exiting the garage. At 8:56 p.m., Michelle's nursing instructor, worried by her sudden disappearance, went to the parking lot with a security guard. At 9:05 p.m., Michelle's white Honda CR-V re-enters the garage, 2 floors below. Suddenly, the car stops, backs up, and races down the ramp, speeding out of the garage. Sensing something was terribly wrong, the nursing instructor dialed 911 to report Michelle missing. In a well-lit garage, under the watchful eye of 18 surveillance cameras, Michelle seemingly vanished into thin air. What had happened to Michelle Lu? Who had taken her away? And how? Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Now, let's get back to the case. On a warm Friday evening, May 27, 2011, the Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in Hayward, California, bustled with the usual flow of patients and staff. It was just another shift for Michelle Lu, a 29-year-old nursing student. Around 6:55 p.m., Michelle told her colleagues she needed to grab something from her car, a white Honda CR-V. Surveillance cameras recorded Michelle walking briskly toward the parking lot. The cameras captured her entering the lot, but they didn't show her coming back out. 1 hour passed and Michelle failed to return. Her instructor, Lori Rosa, began to worry. Michelle, a model of punctuality, wouldn't just leave without notice. Her shift would end in an hour or two. Her belongings were still in the hospital. Where did she go? Around 8:56 p.m., Lori checked the maternity ward and every other area Michelle might have gone, hoping to find her. But Michelle was nowhere to be seen. Her phone calls and text messages went unanswered. Lori requested assistance from a security guard and rushed to the parking lot, but there was no sign of Michelle or her vehicle. Just as Lori was about to turn back inside, the sound of screeching tires startled her. Headlights cut through the darkness as Michelle's white SUV suddenly came into view, rolling back into the parking lot. But to Lori's confusion and fear, the car reversed sharply and almost hit another parked car before speeding away. Lori and the security guard stood frozen. They hadn't seen who was behind the wheel, but one thing was clear: something was terribly wrong. Lori immediately grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Within minutes, the Hayward Police Department responded, sending officers to the scene. They spoke with Lori and hospital staff, piecing together what little information was available. Yet they had no solid leads to work with. Lori's instincts were spot on. Michelle Lu never made it home that fateful night. After the white Honda SUV sped away from the parking lot, she didn't show up for the gathering with friends scheduled the next day, either. Alarm bells rang loudly. The disappearance wasn't a simple delay or change of plans, it was something far more sinister. At 9 a.m. the next morning, a white Honda SUV was discovered parked on Ponderosa Court, only a half-mile from the hospital. The vehicle was neatly locked, its contents untouched, giving no hint of a struggle, as if Michelle had calmly stepped out and walked away. But why would she abandon her car like that? Was Michelle's late-night trip to the parking lot a careful trap, set by someone she trusted? Perhaps she'd been lured by a phone call or a quiet promise. One thing was certain: her disappearance felt personal and calculated. Investigators began to suspect that someone close to her was likely involved. Michelle's friends and family were contacted, but no one had seen or heard from her. Michelle would never vanish without notifying someone. Her disappearance was completely out of character. Michelle Lu was born on October 12, 1984, in Rancho Penasquitos, a neighborhood in San Diego, California. She was surrounded by love, sharing her childhood with her younger brother, Michael, and staying closely connected with her extended family and cousins. Michelle's life was shaped by both love and loss. Her mother, a nurse, had passed away from cancer when Michelle was young. This profound loss shaped her future, inspiring Michelle to honor her mother's memory by following her footsteps. Michelle's dream took her from Mount Carmel High School to the Bay Area, where she studied at San Jose State before transferring to San Francisco State University. She finally enrolled in the nursing program at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, where her hard work, discipline, and compassion won the admiration of her peers and instructors alike. Although she lived miles away from her family, Michelle remained connected to them. Everyone believed she would make a lasting impact in the field of nursing. The night of May 27, 2011, was supposed to be another shift at Kaiser Permanente Medical Center. No one could have imagined it would be her last. As word spread through Michelle's circle, concerned messages poured into her phone, all asking if she was safe. The next day, on May 27, 2011, they began receiving strange, unsettling texts from Michelle's number.
"I'm not missing," it read. "My phone has been acting crazy. It deleted everything. All these texts have killed my battery." Michelle sent a flurry of reassuring texts to friends and family. "I'm fine," she wrote, "just taking it easy."
Hayward Police Inspector Fraser Ritchie texted Michelle, urging her to call him right now. But the response was unusual. "No, my phone is dying."
I sent a message out. "This is Inspector Ritchie, the Hayward Police Department. You need to get a hold of me right now."
Yeah.
I got the response within several minutes saying that my phone is dying, I need to find a charger, I'm having car trouble.
The messages were cold, vague, and nothing like Michelle's usual tone. Phrases like, "I had a bad night last night," and "just taking it easy," were completely out of character. Many texts were identical, as if copied and pasted without thought. When Michelle's ex-boyfriend frantically called and texted her, he was shocked by the response, "Who is this?" After that, the messages stopped, like a door slamming shut. Alarm bells rang even louder when police traced the messages and discovered that they had been sent from a location within the hospital. It became clear that someone was pretending to be Michelle. That person knew Michelle very well, had access to her phone, and was likely connected to her disappearance. For Michelle's family, the pain was immediate and profound. Her father, who was in Vietnam at the time, received the news of her disappearance thousands of miles away. Her younger brother, Michael, became a pillar of strength for the family. On Monday, June 6, 2011, 10 days after Michelle's disappearance, police delivered devastating news to her family. After examining Michelle's car, they concluded that this was no longer a missing person case, it was a homicide investigation. Bound by the limitations of an active murder case, they couldn't share any more details. But Michelle's father refused to sit still and wait.
Until the Hayward Police Department can offer conclusive and definite proof. Otherwise, we will continue to believe she is alive. Michelle is still alive and needs to be rescued.
We're gonna find you. We're gonna bring you home.
Michelle's family reached out to the Kloss Kids Foundation, a public charity dedicated to searching missing children. The organization put pressure on the Hayward Police Department to share any available clues. After 49 days with no significant leads, the police finally pointed them to the last known location of Michelle's phone. The phone's path revealed a bizarre journey. It made a wide loop around Hayward, returned briefly near the hospital, and then moved again. The final ping came from a desolate area in Alameda County. The cell phone trail led them into an eerie wooded landscape. But that wasn't the strangest part of the case. Just 1 hour after Michelle left the hospital, an emergency ward nurse received a call from a woman who claimed to be Michelle Lowe. The supposed Michelle explained that her father had suffered a heart attack and she was checking hospitals to find him. But there were some inconsistencies in the story. The call was directed to the emergency ward, even though Michelle worked in the maternity ward. Moreover, Michelle's father was in Vietnam at the time. Whoever made the call had crafted a clever lie but overlooked critical facts. Michelle's family and members of the Kloss Kids Foundation drove out to a narrow canyon east of San Francisco Bay. This area was a haven for criminals and the homeless. In an encampment, they made a gruesome discovery.
But deeper inside the encampment, something else was uncovered. A large bone.
A mammal bone startled everyone. But just as they felt relieved, they spotted another bone. This time, unmistakably human.
And when they looked closely,
that's a 6 foot something. It's not a 5'5" female.
After many searches, the team found nothing. 72 days passed with no new leads. The family gradually lost hope of finding Michelle alive. Meanwhile, the Hayward Police Department held firm to their initial theory: someone close to Michelle was likely involved. As they investigated Michelle's relationships and personal connections, one name emerged: Giselle Esteban. Giselle was no stranger to Michelle. They were close friends from high school, but recent conflicts had strained their relationship. When police tracked her down, Giselle shocked them. She was also searching for Michelle.
We're here about Michelle Lee. Michelle?
Oh God, what about her?
She went missing last night from her work.
Okay.
And talking to her friends and such, we understand that you guys had a tumultuous relationship.
A tumultuous relationship? She was my best friend who slept with my then fiance. How long has she been missing?
Since yesterday.
And have you guys tried calling her? I have no idea how to help you with that one. I've actually been trying to look for her.
Since when?
Almost a week now, to tell her to stay away from my daughter.
Giselle Diewag Esteban was born on February 4, 1984, in Union City, California, before her family relocated to San Diego. Giselle and Michelle lived in the same neighborhood, attended the same high school and university. Their friendship seemed unbreakable. In 2002, Giselle met a fellow freshman named Scott Marasigan at San Francisco State University. Giselle introduced Scott to Michelle and the two quickly hit it off. Scott and Michelle dated for a month and broke up without drama. As time passed, Giselle's feelings for Scott deepened, and their relationship became official. But Giselle quietly held a grudge against Michelle. The situation escalated after Michelle privately texted Scott about an unplanned pregnancy and her decision to have an abortion. The message was sent in confidence, meant only for Scott as a friend. But Giselle discovered the text, misinterpreted it, and became consumed with suspicion. Scott insisted that the pregnancy had nothing to do with him, but it was too late. From that point onward, the seeds of resentment between the three were deeply sown. Giselle's relationship with Scott became a roller coaster. She monitored his phone calls, questioned his every word, and demanded Scott to end his friendship with Michelle. Giselle and Scott broke up and reconnected multiple times. On October 31, 2005, Giselle gave birth to their daughter, but motherhood did little to ease the emotional strain. She was forever haunted by jealousy and Michelle. By 2008, the ongoing conflict between Giselle and Scott reached its breaking point. Their relationship finally ended, and they shared custody of their daughter. However, in 2009, Giselle moved to San Diego with a new boyfriend and took their daughter with her, igniting a bitter custody battle. After a long legal fight, Scott gained 80% custody and brought their daughter back to Northern California. Throughout this turmoil, Michelle remained friends with both Scott and Giselle. However, after breaking up with Scott, Giselle issued an ultimatum to Michelle: choose between her or Scott. This put Michelle in a dilemma. Meanwhile, Scott and Giselle's toxic connection lingered as they continued their on and off encounters. The bitterness was far from reaching its final chapter. Investigators suspected that Giselle's long-held resentment toward Michelle had escalated into something dangerous. Giselle was called in for questioning multiple times, but the interrogations revealed little.
I understand at one point you and Michelle were close friends, is that right?
Consider her my sister.
And then what happened?
She made a mistake. Scott made a mistake.
And was that when you were with Scott, or had you guys broken up, or?
No, we were still together. We made the mistake.
Giselle knew she was being recorded. To prevent police from reading her expression, she kept covering her face.
When was the last time that you and Michelle actually spoke?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing her again.
Back in December?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And what has happened since then?
I don't know.
How do you feel about the fact that she's missing?
I wish you guys would find her already.
And since you and Michelle used to be so close, what do you think is going on with her?
I don't know. I don't know who she is anymore.
But as far as you know, this would be very unusual for her, right? To have just gone missing?
I don't know. I stopped knowing her a long time ago.
But needless to say, you don't like her.
Yeah, that's evident. That's
Okay.
very clear.
How would you classify your dislike for her?
I just dislike her. I don't.
I mean, do you hate her? Do you want to see something bad happen to her?
No, I just want her to stay away from my child.
There was something the police had kept confidential from Michelle's family and the public, evidence that suggested this was no longer a rescue mission but a search for a body. The answer lay in Michelle's abandoned white Honda SUV.
Once we got the car opened, you can see there's blood wiped across here in the plastic, a little bit on the floor mats, and then as you can see there's more droplets or blood dropping down, going in a straight down pattern.
Near the spot where Michelle's car had been found, investigators discovered a pool of blood stretching over 10.5 inches across the pavement. Inside Michelle's car, they uncovered what appeared to be her nursing school ID, something she always carried to show her instructor. But something about that ID felt off. Michelle's instructor couldn't recognize that ID. Investigators dug deeper and uncovered a shocking truth: the ID didn't belong to Michelle at all. It was a stolen identification card, reported missing just a few weeks earlier. As police reviewed hours of CCTV footage, they spotted a familiar figure entering the hospital around the time of Michelle's disappearance.
So I had them send me the still photographs. And when I looked at it, I immediately identified it. It was Giselle Esteban.
It was none other than Giselle Esteban. Just days before Michelle vanished, Giselle was caught on camera wearing a white coat, holding a class roster and using a computer. It seemed like she was looking for something. Following Michelle's phone record, detectives found it had pinged in an Apple store. When reviewing the CCTV, they recognized Giselle and her daughter entering the store right after Michelle disappeared. Giselle was seen holding Michelle's white iPhone, approaching the staff.
She told the Apple employee that her daughter had put a code into the phone and locked it. Once he unlocked it, the phone started binging and ringing.
This is the day after Michelle's disappearance, when her friends and family were frantically calling and texting her. And look at this surveillance footage. Looks like Giselle is sending out text messages.
Giselle was caught using Michelle's phone to send texts and messages. Alarmed, detectives requested access to Giselle's cell phone records. The data painted a chilling picture. On the night Michelle disappeared, Giselle's phone had pinged near the hospital where Michelle was last seen. Even more incriminating, Giselle's phone had followed a similar route as Michelle's, tracking through the city and ending in a remote area. These pings weren't just coincidental. They suggested that Giselle had been near Michelle's location in those critical hours.
The locations that Michelle's phone went.
All signs pointed back to Giselle Esteban, whose past behavior, cell phone data, and unsettling demeanor left detectives with little doubt. Yet without Michelle's body, the case remained incomplete. Just weeks later, Scott Marasegan frantically called the police, insisting he was being set up. Somehow, Michelle's white iPhone was lying in the back seat of his car. Scott explained to investigators that after he won custody of his daughter in 2009, he had settled in Northern California. Months later, Giselle Esteban moved back to the same area, and one day suggested an improbable meeting. She proposed that, since they all lived nearby, she, Scott, and Michelle should reconcile and put the past behind them. Michelle and Scott agreed to the idea. The three met, hoping to mend what had been broken. However, the meeting reignited Giselle's old resentments. She blamed Michelle for her miserable life. During a private coffee meeting with Scott, Giselle hinted at harming Michelle. When Scott dismissed her disturbing idea, Giselle lashed out and hurled her coffee at him. Her anger escalated into threats. Scott, alarmed by her behavior, began saving Giselle's hateful texts and messages. These weren't just insults, they revealed a dangerous obsession. Scott showed the police some of these messages, offering a glimpse into Giselle's twisted mindset. In February 2011, Giselle sent Michelle a message filled with bitterness, calling her a parasite. If you were really anybody's friend, mine or Scott's, you just F***K off and leave my family alone. But all you are is the WH**re who had nothing better to do and followed me to SF. That's all you ever will be, the WH**re who slept with other people's men and brothers, because no one wanted you. You aren't my friend, you're always just a parasite. In another group message to both Scott and Michelle, Giselle wrote, "You two really do deserve each other. I hope you get what you deserve. You're both pathetic. You with no dreams or goals, and the other chasing after someone else's dreams, because she has none of her own. You're both parasites." The harassment continued for over a month, with Giselle sending relentless messages filled with anger and threats. Concerned for his family's safety, Scott requested a restraining order against Giselle just 3 days before Michelle went missing. He also reported an unsettling incident where Giselle broke into his home the same day Michelle disappeared. Scott even revealed a hidden camera video. During a drive they took together, with their daughters sitting innocently in the back seat, Giselle threatened both Scott and Michelle's lives.
I asked you, can we just be honest about Michelle, because she's the one issue that I really am having a hard time dealing with.
That's not what you said at all.
Yes! Okay,
We
well
didn't
then
talk for
fine.
days.
Starting from now, we are going to be honest about Michelle. Do you understand me? Whether you sleep with her, whether you share food with her, whether you talk to her, you will be honest with me. Look at me! You will be honest with me regarding her. Otherwise, I will take your life and hers. And you can take that to the grave with you.
Wow.
Why? Because you lied about her so many times, it's hard to believe that you could sleep with her and lock her up. You deserve to die for your lies, as does she. And you will. If you do it again, this is your last and final.
Why?
Do you understand me? It's your last and final.
The motive for Michelle's murder became painfully clear: Giselle's obsession with Scott, fueled by jealousy and a thirst for revenge. The case reached a breakthrough when investigators found Michelle's blood on Giselle's shoes, directly tying her to the crime. Nearly 4 months after Michelle's disappearance, Giselle Esteban was arrested on September 7, 2011.
She looked at me very nonchalantly, dismissive. What now? You're under arrest. Not for what, anything. It was just like a matter of fact. She was waiting for it. There was no sign of guilt. There was no sign of remorse. There was nothing. It was just, okay.
But the haunting question remained: where was Michelle's body? Michelle's family and the Kloss Kids Foundation tirelessly organized search parties to comb through rugged rural areas east of San Francisco Bay. After nearly 4 months of exhaustive searching, on September 17, 2011, during the 8th organized search operation, volunteers discovered another set of human remains. According to Carrie McGonigal, her dog suddenly broke away from the group and ran several hundred yards down a hill.
And she was acting weird. She was jumping all over the place. She was barking, wanted to get away from me. And as I buckled her up, she took off from me and ran. And so I started running after her, and she comes back and she jumps up on me and takes off again. And I followed her, and she was just standing still. And so I reached down to put her leash on, and I noticed some twine rope sticking out of the ground, and then some bones next to it.
Police and forensic experts rushed to the scene, only to find a severely decomposed body. The remains were carefully sent to the Alameda County Coroner's Office. 2 days later, on September 19th, Coroner's Office confirmed the heartbreaking news. The remains belonged to Michelle Liu. However, due to the advanced decomposition, the cause of death could not be determined. Giselle refused to talk. She maintained her innocence, insisting she had nothing to do with Michelle's disappearance and sticking to her fabricated stories during all police interrogations. Michelle's family faced the news of Giselle's arrest with a complex mix of relief and sorrow. The circumstances of Michelle's death, the betrayal by someone she had once called a friend, weighed heavily on them. They could only imagine the fear and pain Michelle must have endured in her final moments, and the thought was almost too much to bear. On September 17, 2012, Giselle Esteban was officially charged with first-degree murder. Prosecutors argued that her actions had been calculated and motivated by a crazy obsession. They presented evidence to the court, which included nearly 300 internet searches for Michelle Li's name. How to follow someone without getting caught. How to find someone who doesn't want to be found. Is there a certain chemical that can induce heart attacks without leaving a trace? How to induce a heart attack? Where to buy potassium chloride? Giselle had been obsessively stalking Michelle. In the days leading up to Michelle's disappearance, Giselle had called mutual friends, asking about Michelle's schedule and confirming when she would be at the hospital. She stole an ID card belonging to a nurse who was away on vacation and used it to access Michelle's nursing school, likely searching for personal information. Surveillance footage from a nearby store showed Giselle purchasing items like a large plastic tarp and gloves, suggesting she was preparing for a crime. Prosecutors theorized that on May 27, 2011, Giselle lured Michelle to the garage, promising to talk things out. When Michelle entered the car, Giselle ambushed her, attacking violently. After that, Giselle transported the body to a remote area off Pleasant and Sunol Valley Road, where she hastily buried Michelle in a shallow grave. Giselle returned Michelle's car to the hospital parking garage but made a reckless exit that raised suspicions. She later abandoned the car at Ponderosa Court, after cleaning the exterior to remove potential evidence. The next morning, Giselle took her daughter to an Apple store, lying to unlock Michelle's phone. After sending fake messages to Michelle's friends and family, she broke into Scott's house and planted Michelle's phone in the back seat of his car, evilly framed him for the murder. In closing arguments, Alameda County Deputy District Attorney Butch Ford scolded Giselle as a sociopath who, laughing as she is talking about killing people. This is a planned assault, a strategic assault on someone who never saw it coming. The defense team, led by Andrea Auer, acknowledged that Giselle was responsible for Michelle's death. However, it was a voluntary manslaughter, not a first-degree murder. The defense claimed that Michelle had provoked Giselle, leading her to act impulsively and in the heat of passion. On October 29, 2012, after careful consideration, they found Giselle Esteban guilty of first-degree murder. At the December 10th sentencing, she was sentenced 25 years to life in prison. At the time she planned and carried out the murder of her once close friend, Giselle was 2 months pregnant. A few months later, while still serving time in prison, Giselle gave birth to a healthy baby with Scott Marasegan. Michelle's family and friends never move on from her death. They often see her in their dreams.
She mainly comes in dreams, and it's so real that it feels like her. And she won't say a thing. She'll just give me a hug or something. I would flip out, I'd be like, Michelle, where the heck have you been? We had this huge thing where we thought you were gone, you know, and she laughed and she said, I'm fine.
For Scott Marasegan, the loss of his close friend Michelle Liu and the intense media scrutiny left deep scars. His 2 children now carry the burden of growing up with a mother in prison. Scott's experience reflects the painful reality of toxic relationships, as he found himself repeatedly getting back to Giselle Esteban. Perhaps there were red flags he overlooked. Had he recognized them earlier, the tragedy could have been prevented. Does this case remind you of any similar toxic relationship between 3 close friends? Why do you think Scott and Michelle failed to see the warning signs, despite years of entanglement with Giselle? Feel free to share in the comments. If there's a case you're interested in, let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.